Watching for a homegrown storm this weekend on the East Coast. It's Lee Weather Team meteorologist Joe Martucci. Thanks for watching this episode of Hurricane Hunt. My weather brother Sean Subble will be back with us next Tuesday. Let's get into our tropical notes here. We do have to talk about Hurricane Nigel. It is weakening. It's moving well away from land, but we'll talk about that at the top of the broadcast here. But then we're going to get into most of our show about the East Coast storm that could be Ophelia here. That would bring impacts from South Carolina all the way up into New England. And then we have a Cape Verde storm forming right now. In fact, I'll show you that. That is right about here where I am pointing. It is off the coast of West Africa here. Now, this will move to the west and to the northwest, but nothing for us to worry about, at least for another week. We'll see what that track is. This is what could be Ophelia here. It is a weak storm. It's disorganized, but it could get its act together in time by Friday to turn into a tropical storm. That would be Ophelia. And then we have Nigel right here that's spinning at the top of your screen. Now, this is a Category 1 storm, maximum sustained winds of 90 miles an hour, moving to the north-northeast. A really good eye, actually, on satellite right now here, even though it's weakening. You still got an eye with it, but it is going to move pretty much and avoid all land masses. It's going to avoid Newfoundland, it's going to avoid Greenland, it's going to avoid Iceland here. It kind of just makes its way out somewhere in the far North Atlantic as we go into Saturday, and it'll lose its hurricane status as we go into early on Friday morning. Now let's take a look at what's happening a little bit closer to us here on the East Coast, and this is what could be Ophelia. The National Hurricane Center is watching for this storm to potentially again turn into a tropical storm in the next 48 hours or through Friday evening. Only a 10% chance of doing so. But it will or could do so beyond that. And what the Hurricane Center is saying is, hey, maybe by the time it gets to the top of this circle here, which would be about Friday night or early Saturday, it could have tropical status. Now, regardless of if it's a tropical storm or it's a coastal storm or a nor'easter, the impacts are going to be about the same. But let me tell you why the Hurricane Center is only giving this a 40% chance. Tropical storms, hurricanes, they need water temperatures at or above 80 degrees to strengthen here. And we have that, but just until about Hatteras. You see that 79 degree there. So that circle that they drew before was not just by coincidence. What they're saying is, hey, if we can't get a tropical storm by here, it's not ever going to become a tropical storm. It has a relatively short runway, really from off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, up to Hatteras to become a named storm here while the waters are still warm. That's not a lot of space in the grand scheme of things to do a storm turning to a tropical storm, and that's why the percentage is 40%. So if it doesn't, it's still going to become a nor'easter for the mid-Atlantic and northeast, but it's not going to become Ophelia here. Either way, rainfall totals will be significant somewhere here. Now, this is according to the European model. We're talking about anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in the Outer Banks, 4 to 5 inches of rain in Richmond. Really, where you see these reds and oranges here, that's over 2.5 inches of rain, even extends into Philadelphia as well. This would create areas of roadway, streaming, creek flooding all weekend long, with Saturday and Sunday pretty much being washouts for a good portion of the area. And even in Atlantic City, we're talking about a soggy Saturday with some rain around on Sunday as well. So if your basement floods, if you have one of those houses where your basement floods with a lot of rain, or you live next to a stream or creek, you want to start making preparations now, because somewhere, again, it's going to see 2.5, 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches of rain from late Friday until Sunday here. Wave heights are going to be up to 8 to 10 feet, but not as high as what we saw during Lee. That being said, rough surf, rip currents are going to be around all weekend long. Not that you're probably going to want to go in the water because it'll be raining, it'll be windy as well, but it is something to pay attention to as we go into the weekend here as this moves up the East Coast. It could actually make landfall in North Carolina in the Outer Banks, maybe move back out over the open water and make landfall again in the Delmarva Peninsula. That track will be determined upon whether or not it becomes a tropical storm or a nor'easter here. So to recap on our Wednesday evening, Hurricane Nigel's weakening, still well away from land. That's good news. The weekend East Coast storm could become Ophelia, could just stay as a nor'easter. Either way, impacts are about the same. Flooding rain is my biggest concern. There will also be beach erosion. There will be isolated areas of wind damage and some coastal flooding during the PM high tides. on one or all of the Friday PM, Saturday PM, or Sunday PM high tides there. Then we have that Cape Verde storm that is forming right now off the west coast of Africa. That we'll talk about in the hurricane hunt as we go into next week.